So the All Blacks versus the Wallabies doesn't just add action to the Rugby Championship, it also brings us the start of the Bledisloe Cup 2023 competition. And for this video, we will be trying our best to predict the All Black starting lineup that we feel they will go with in this upcoming important game versus Australia. But with me, it is Rugbyitch, mate, the Bledisloe Cup. All Blacks, if they win this game, they walk away with the Rugby Championship. Do you see it being a high possibility with the game being in Australia, or does that even the odds just that little bit more?
Look, maybe this is me being a bit delusional here, but I think whenever we see the All Blacks play against the Wallabies in Australia, I think it's definitely a much closer game than what you expect. So I'm hoping it's a close game. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. Again, the All Blacks have been in just remarkable form, really. So it would not surprise me at all if they get a very convincing win. I'd like to think this is going to be a close game, and similar to what we had last year. I mean, literally, the Wallabies. This is where I don't get all into the controversy of what happened last year. But the Wallabies were on the edge of winning that game, but of course, the penalty got reversed in to the All Blacks' favor, and it eventually won them the game. Obviously, with that try at the end, I believe through Geordie Barrett. So again, we're gonna have to see if they're gonna have that big matchup once more, but. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited as a Bok fan, hoping that the Wallabies can do us a favor, but knowing the All Blacks, they could be too strong. So we'll see what happens.
For this game, we've seen a few players released back into the Bunnings NBC squads. The All Blacks overall, it seems like they won't make too many changes in this game up against the Wallabies, definitely with how well they played last week up against the Boks. But in that front row, who have you got? 1, 2, 3 to start off this AB side?
Yeah, so I've actually only made one change here. I stuck with the same two props. I've gone with the likes of Ethan Groot and Tal Lomax. I think just for this All Black side, they have to gain just consistency. I think that's just the one thing they have to kind of gain with a lot of these players now. And they really have a starting lineup now, and I think that they can kind of go with that. But again, they can obviously tweak a few players in and out in just terms of resting players. So I think they'll do that with a number 2 position, only within this front row. So that's the reason why I've taken out Cody Taylor and I put back in Samisoni Tokalaho. So that's the reason. That's my kind of front row there for this game against the Wallabies.
Very similar to what they did have last week in that game up against the Springboks, but not quite as similar as myself. Because I've gone with the identical front row: Ethan de Groot number 1, Cody Taylor number 2, and Tyrell Lomax and number 3. I feel like the scrums could be somewhere that the All Blacks can really get the advantage in this game over the Wallabies. We saw that the Wallabies, they were pushed in that game up against the Springboks, and I believe de Groot and Lomax could be that combination to help the ABs get that bit of an advantage. I've stuck with Cody Taylor, mainly because I feel like the way that he's been playing throughout Super Rugby Pacific and also the first games of the Rugby Championship, he hasn't been putting too many feet wrong, so I'd like to see him get another opportunity here, although Samisoni Taukeiaho still somewhere in my side a bit later on. But now looking at the locks, there's been a lot of talk this week about the possible return of Sam Whitelock for this game. The coaches still aren't 100% saying he's going to be back, but they aren't 100% saying that he's not going to be back. So, of course, everyone very excited about that. For myself in the locking duo, number 4, Brodie Retallick. I've let him keep his starting spot after the way that he played last week up against the Boks and also following that Super Rugby Pacific season. And then number 5, I have gone with a Crusader. I have gone with a man with a lot of experience. I've gone with Scott Barrett as my number 5 in this one. It just seems really rough to not give him the opportunity after the way that he's been able to play. The only reason I think he'd be taken out of that starting side is due to rest, just because they want to try and lighten his workload just before that Rugby World Cup to reduce the chance of injury. But I think if Sam Whitelock's not 100%, they've got a very good option in Barrett, and it might just be what they go with.
This is probably the most difficult position for me, I think, in this whole starting 15, really. I mean, look, you really have 3 world-class locks here, guys, with Retallick.
I like how you're leaning in. Like, this is a serious...
Yeah, like, this is it. This is a big moment. But this is what? Whitelock, Retallick, and Scott Barrett. I mean, look, guys, I'll be honest with you. I actually do have the likes of Retallick at my number 4 and Whitelock at number 5. But I'm almost now considering just to put maybe, I don't know, you put maybe like Whitelock at 4 and you put Scott Barrett at 5. Maybe go with a Crusaders duo there. Let Retallick rest. I think for this then, I will actually go with that. I'm going to actually put Scott Barrett at number 4 and I'm going to put Whitelock at my number 5. So it's a bit hard to do that for, I guess, for Retallick, but I just want to see a different duo this at least. So yeah, I've gone with them too.
Locking it in.
Locking it in.
When we find out Whitelock's not available.
Exactly.
Now, looking through at the loose forward trio, who have you got scattered throughout there? I know that Sam Caney had a little bit of an injury in that game up against the Box, but we've had no news in terms of whether or not he is going to be out. I believe he is match fit. So who have you got in that trio?
Well, the thing is, I've actually taken that into consideration actually for this. Maybe I'm wrong, by the way. Maybe I'm wrong in doing that. But I noticed that, because Sam Cane came off the... When did he come off the game, by the way? Like, it was pretty early on, right?
It was round half time, wasn't it?
Yeah. So that's...
I'm not wrong.
It's a bit unusual. So I mean, maybe I'm reading too much into this, guys. But for that reason, that's actually the reason why I haven't gone with Sam Cane. I just think that they can... I think for this match in particular, they can kind of go with someone else in that position. Again, I have to stick with Shannon Bazell. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind he's now the number 6 now for the All Blacks. I think there was always a battle between him and you could probably say Tupa Vala and even Akira Ione. But I think Shannon Bazell is just now he's kind of certified himself in that position following that brilliant performance really into the box. So yeah, he's my number 6 for sure. But number 7, I've actually given Dalton Papali'i a start here. I've actually given him a start. I could be completely wrong here, guys, but I'm only doing this just because I think Sam Cane could get rested just following what happened with that niggle he had within that box game. But yeah, for number 8, this is actually where I've gone with Honest Sevilla. I don't think you can really can't change him. I mean, there's not really a backup really to him now I can think about it because like Luke Jacobson's now out, also now playing with an NPC. Who else is there? I mean, even Finau is not available. There's not really a backup to him, but I can't think of really kind of a straight up backup to him. But so yeah, you're kind of I think he's probably going to be expected to play 80 minutes. So yeah, that's my loose forward trio there.
Hey, so for myself, I have stuck with Shannon Frizzell at number 6. Like you said, in that Springbok game, he really stepped up. He was making meters. He was putting in the big hits. And I think for now, definitely with the fact that they've released Samipeni Finau back to play in the Bunnings NBC, their vision moving forward seems to involve Frizzell as that starting number 6. A little bit surprising for me that they did release Jacobson to the NPC as well. I would have thought that he might have gotten a crack in this game, either as 6 or 8, coming off the bench even. So probably a little bit hard done by there, Jacobson, after the form that he did find throughout Super Rugby Pacific. Number 7, I have stuck with Sam Cane. Whether or not there is that injury, I'm willing to take that risk to put him in the starting side in terms of our point system. Not so much with the injury department. If he has got an injury, he certainly shouldn't play. But if he is match fit, I have got him there as the starting number 7. And then at number 8, like you said, not too many options at the moment for the ABs. So Artie Savia, it's not exactly a bad one option to have, is it? I think a lot of people would take that every day of the week. But now looking through at the back line, the 9 and 10 combination. For myself, I have stuck with what has worked, which involves Aaron Smith as the number 9, with Roygar getting released to the NPC. Also, it made me a little sad because he is one of quite a few players who seem like they're going to have to wait that little bit longer to get themselves that AB debut alongside, of course, Samipeni Finau. There's nowhere to be seen here, although that doesn't mean that those players can't get added back into the squad.
Exactly.
They are needed. In the near future, number 10, still that battle of McKenzie versus Mo'unga, but I feel last week with that goal-kicking ability that Mo'unga was able to prove, it did enough for me, and also the way that he played, I think was solid enough to give him the start here in the Bledisloe Cup. So he will be the starting 10, although I'm not doing what the All Blacks did last week. I've got McKenzie somewhere, just not at fly half.
Whoa, that's a... Really? If that's... Okay, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but we'll see what you do later on. But for the meantime, I actually have one of the same duo as you here. I've gone with Aaron Smith at number 9, Richard Mo'unga number 10. I did say this, guys, for a long time. Whoever I choose in this number 10 position for this game, I think will be the starting 10 for the World Cups. Going into the opening match against France. So, yeah, I think Mo'unga is that guy. I think he kind of just proved it against the Box. I would love it if it was Damon McKenzie, but I just think Mo'unga's just proved it, like you said, with his kicking. And he really is just kind of a great outlet in terms of finding spaces within defenses. So, yeah, that's the 9-10 combination I'm going with for the All Blacks.
Okay, so now we move on to the centre combination, a different combination of 2 men, but who we have had look relatively similar throughout the rest of the Rugby Championship. Is it looking the exact same for this game as well, or have you made the big switch?
No, I've kept it the exact same. Like I said, I'm going off consistency. They got to keep these players getting these consistent minutes, improve the chemistry, you could say. So yeah, for that reason, I'm going with Jordie Barrett's number 12 and Rekolani at number 13. I just think that these two they've been really like unsung heroes, you could say, throughout this, I guess, this Rugby Championship, because you could say that they haven't. I mean, Jordie Barrett was actually very impressive, you could say, against against Argentina. He actually had a pretty good performance actually throughout. And Reko actually, he had some good moments there. I think he got a try for himself, if I'm not mistaken, or did he get a try? I think he got. Well, he had one.
He got the assist, didn't he?
Exactly, he had a really good assist actually, to what I recall. And yeah, I think both of these players just have been really good in moments, I'd say, for the All Blacks. So I think you just have to reward them once more and give them the starting places, really.
I agree, which is why I have done it as well.
Nice.
Interestingly enough, they didn't release Dallas McLeod back into the NPC, which makes me wonder whether or not they could look to use him as a bit of a surprise entrant into the starting side or off the bench, just to give him some minutes under his belt. But yeah, for me, Jordie Barrett and Rieko, I feel like those two in the combination up against Australia could cause some real problems. Definitely because at the moment, for the Wallabies side of things, with Len Ikitau out, it means that there's going to be a reshuffle there for the Wallabies. Whether or not Karevi plays 12, whether he plays 13, whereas the All Blacks, if they stick with that consistency, like you mentioned, at 12 and 13 could be very solid. But now looking through at the back three in this matchup, number 11, speaking of consistency, not so much in the Rugby Championship because the man hasn't played yet. But I have got Leicester Fainganuku as my starting left winger. I believe he will be back now into the side, which means I've taken Mark Talia out, which I do apologise about, seeing as you are a Blues man. But I feel Leicester, he needs some game time before we get into this Rugby World Cup. And what better game to give him a chance than in the first game of the Bledisloe Cup. Number 14, I've stuck with Will Jordan. He was sensational last week. I was sceptical with him starting out on the right wing, mainly because I was worried the man wouldn't get to touch the ball. In that last game up against the Springboks, he seemed to be absolutely everywhere. Yeah. So he's got that right wing spot for me once again in this game. And then number 15, another man who I was slightly sceptical about giving this position to at the start of the Rugby Championship, although we both did it and we were both correct. Beauden Barrett, number 15. I feel at the moment he's in some pretty decent form. I got one Blues guy in there for yourself. A couple Saders, though, to close out the wings. But who have you got as your back three? How many Blues? One or two?
Look, this was a tough call because I actually could have gone with Mark Slayer myself, but I have actually decided to go with the exact same shirt as you. I think you have to, because with Leicester Fainganuku, he just hasn't had a lot of minutes under his belt, and I think this game is really it's set up perfectly for him to kind of make an entrance and kind of just show what he can do if he was to get the All Black jersey for the Rugby World Cup. So I think this is kind of a good game for him. Number 14, again, you have to go with Will Jordan. I mean this in the most positive way, guys, but I hate watching Will Jordan against the teams I love because he is just so damn good, and it hurts me so much. Like he destroys the Blues every single time he plays, and against the Boks, he's now had two pretty good games against the Boks, to what I can recall now, guys. So it's getting annoying. He's like a what's an annoying thing? I can't even think of like an object or an animal, which is annoying. But
stepping on Legos.
Yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, Legos. Oh, that's a good example. Yeah, there you go. Stepping on Legos. He's that annoying, like stepping on Legos. But no, Will Jordan, he's just a sensational player. But yeah, number 15, you got to go with Beauden Barrett. I mean, he's arguably been it's actually tough because Willaroo's actually had a pretty good tournament, I'd say, overall in the Rugby Championship. But Beauden Barrett, I think he really has stepped up his level. And I think, again, you have to remember, guys, he isn't normally a 15. He normally plays a 10, in terms of Super Rugby levels. So for him to just kind of make that automatic switch towards 15 and just be so comfortable, it's been really impressive to watch. So, yeah, like I said, that's the same as you. That's the trio we've gone with.
I think something to remember for Beauden Barrett as well is they are playing him theoretically at 15, but he seems to spend a lot more time a little bit further up in terms of playing that fly half-ish role when Richie Mo'unga is back. Beauden's done a lot of the kicking over the last couple games that he's been playing. So it's almost like about 3 or 4 of those backs are just floaters and they just kind of go where they want to, which I think makes it very hard for the opposition to defend because they're not playing, I guess, classic rugby positions. Instead, they're switching it up. They're having random guys going in random directions. stepping on Legos all over the place. But now, the reserves. That was an extremely long pause. That was like 15 seconds. It felt like. So the reserves, Tim.
Yes.
Who have you got as your 16, 17, and numero 18?
Yeah, so for the, I guess the reserves right here, again, I've obviously had to go to the likes of Cody Taylor, as I didn't select him in my starting lineup, so he's my number 16. Number 17, I've actually gone with the likes of Ofatunga Fassi. It's a tough call because, again, he can play both the 17 or 18, really, if needed, because he can play a loose head or a tight head. But for the exact reason, I've actually put Tamati Williams, actually, at the number 18 position, just because I think he's a great player. And again, I think he got his debut against the Box, and I saw those posts on social media how like the All Blacks are now just putting, they love having a new prop against the Box, and they somehow always do well. So yeah, it's a trend which keeps on happening. So yeah, I think he can kind of continue what he did against the Box into this performance against the Wallabies. So yeah, that's my my front row bench, to say the least.
Because there's also that possibility with those two, and Tuanga Fassi and Tamaiti Williams, that they could actually both switch, couldn't they?
Exactly. Yeah.
There's a Williams could be loose head,
yeah,
and Tuanga Fassi could be the tight head. But for myself, I've got number 16, Simisoni Taukei'aho. I mentioned that I was going to have him in there somewhere. I would have loved to give Dane Coles another opportunity just because he didn't actually do too much wrong in that first game up against Argentina. It's just the fact that he's a walking penalty magnet that makes it very tricky to be able to select him. So I have gone instead with Simisoni Taukei'aho. Number 17, after his debut last week, had to give him another crack. It is Tamaiti Williams. Okay. And then at number 18, I have gone with Nepalulala once again. So I have left out off Tuanga Fassi. Now looking through at the rest of the replacement forwards, number 19, I have gone with Sam Whitelock. Now it felt weird writing that man's name for him coming off the bench, but I feel like for the All Blacks, the big debate is whether or not, if he is just coming back from injury, do you start Whitelock and try and give him the first little stage of the game? Or do you have him come off the bench when he can use that experience to his advantage near the end of a contest and quite possibly be that important factor that helps you win it? So I decided the second one, and I decided to put him as number 19. Number 20, due to the fact that Jacobson and Samapeni Finau were both released to the NPC, I have gone with, I believe, the only option that they have left, and that is Dalton Papali'i.
There is really no other loose forward they've gone with, right? They're really, unless we're forgetting one, just...
That's why I'm so curious to know who you've got off the bench.
Well, the thing is that, like, well, again, you have to remember, the All Blacks are obviously going to go with a 5-3 split, unlike the Box. So, again, I have gone with the likes of Brody Retallick here, because it's kind of similar to you, just want a bit of experience off the bench, kind of making that, I guess, that impact, you could say, for the last final 20 minutes. But this is where I've actually gone with Sam Cane, just because I think that it's just one of those, like, where, again, I was really honest with you guys, where I really don't, maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but that's the, because of what happened within that game against the Box, where he got taken off pretty early, I'd say, that's the only reason why I have him kind of starting off the bench. But again, that can be an immediate swap of Dr. Papali'i, so I wouldn't be mistaken about that. Yeah.
I have a question. Who's your captain? Is Sam Cane your captain off the bench, or have you got another captain in the starting side?
For this game, actually, I've actually gone with Otto Sevilla, just for this game. Again, that's the thing, is that, like, can Sam Cane still be captain if he's on the bench?
Yeah, but he can be. It's just they won't know when the captain is going to make his way out there. They might.
That is true, because like, you'll have to have what's it called, like a temporary captain, right? Like a co-captain.
Which I guess is something that Bowden Barrett did last year, wasn't it? He had a little bit of co-captaincy, so they could look at maybe, like you said, Savia as a crack, or Aaron Smith and Bowden Barrett.
You know what? I'll actually say Aaron Smith. I'll put Aaron Smith as like my temporary captain, you could say, for the first half, and then when Sam Cane comes back in, he'll be the captain for the rest. But like I said, guys, I could be completely reading too much into this, and Cane starts as expected. So, yeah, that's my backups, you could say, in terms of that forward pack.
Righty, and that just leaves us with the back replacements. Now, there are actually a lot of options for these three positions, other than 21. 21's almost a guarantee due to the players that they have still got available. Yeah. So I guess number 21, we can say it at the same time. 3, 2, 1.
Finley Christie, yeah.
Finley Christie. There you go. The Blues representative. You happy about it? I wanted Roygaard.
Yeah, look, I mean, it would have been great to see Roygaard in this one, but I think what will most likely happen is that, I mean, because, again, I'm not even sure, because all those players that you listed beforehand that are like going to the NPC, is that going to be for the whole competition now, or can they kind of come back into the?
I think they can come back in. I think they're kind of like free to go between. So maybe not traveling to Australia, but then for that New Zealand game that's taking place over
I'm
in
thinking
New
maybe
Zealand,
like Roygar can maybe
probably
come into that one.
easier.
I mean, yeah, same as you. We got my Finley Christie there. For my number 21, this is where I've had to go with Damien McKenzie. I just think he's just too good not to have him. I have a funny feeling he actually may not play in this game. I don't know why, just because I think you have Mwanga and you have Barrett. You already have Jordy Barrett. If you need, you can play there if needed. So you actually have a lot of cover anyway. But yeah, I'm kind of just making sure I kind of just have him in just in case he is going to get some minutes in this game. So McKenzie is my number 21 spot, number 22 spot, I mean. And for number 23, this is where I've actually gone with Dallas McLeod. I think he can kind of get his debut. I think, yeah, it would be his debut. I think for the All Blacks. So yeah, that's my my starting 23.
Righty. So for number 21, I've gone with Brad Weber. No, number 21, Finley Christie, of course. Number 22, Chiefs teammate of Brad Weber, Damien McKenzie. Right. I'm curious to know if they do look at Weber, though, as an option heading towards that World Cup, getting one more chance. We saw how well Folau Fakatava also did in the games up against the Japan XV in Japan. So
really impressive, actually. Yeah.
Couple guys fighting for that same spot. 22, Damien McKenzie just has that cover. And I felt, to be honest, that he should have been off the bench last week. It seemed like a bit of a waste having Enoy and Clark. Definitely when they were only going to give Clark about 3 minutes at the end of the game. So, yeah, Damien McKenzie, they might look to put him on a little bit earlier on. Perhaps it creates a reshuffle in the backline, but I think he's a good option to have late in a game. And also a member of the Chiefs squad, Amoni Narawa, my number 23. Oh, okay. I'm not sure of his injury extent because I know that is the reason he missed the Springboks game.
Yeah, that's why I didn't.
I feel like if he is match fit, I'd like to see him get another opportunity just because of that impact that he was able to have in the first game up against Argentina. It didn't really put a foot wrong, so I've got him as their number 23. But the good news is the All Blacks, seeing as they've limited their squad a little bit, we should start to have a few more options correct here in terms of who we have picked. The bad news is we have to wait a little bit longer until the lineup does get announced. But nonetheless, we do thank you all very much for tuning into this prediction. Do let us know in the comments who you think Ian Foster and his side will go with in this game up against Australia. Be sure to check out Rugbyitch over on his YouTube channel. Also, check out the Rugby Recap where we will be doing the preview for this weekend's matches of the Rugby Championship as well. But thank you all very much for tuning in. We will see you all for the next one.